Okay.
Nuclear power.
Nuclear power's pointless. No reason.
No.
Forget it. It takes too long, right? We've got a crisis now. We've got carbon going in the atmosphere now. We've got to stop that, right? Nuclear power station talk at 2 gigawatts, right? So what that 10% of UK power on a sunny day, summer's day.
Yep.
You can build that with solar in 6 months, and it starts generating now. In 6 months, not in what's it take for a nuclear power station start to finish? 20 years.
Are we building it here, or are we building it in Korea? Because in Korea, they build nuclear power stations between 3 and 6 times faster than us, and for a third of the price. Basically, the problems with nuclear power stations is not the nuclear power stations; it's everything around the nuclear power stations. The over anxious way in which we deal with nuclear power, because we've got this whole demonology around nuclear power, contamination, people glowing in the dark, all sort of 1950s sci-fi stuff. I have probably been to most of the nuclear power stations in the UK, and I have checked. I do not glow in the dark.
What is nuclear power?
Nuclear power, splitting the atom, uranium, plutonium.
Nuclear power is basically a radioactive isotope breaking down into other materials, is what it is. So it's basically a particular metal which degrades itself over a period of time, and as it does that, it releases energy. And nuclear power uses that energy to heat up water to make steam to run a purely conventional power station. The only bit that the reactor replaces is the boiler. So instead of burning coal, you're allowing this particular rare metal or collection of metals to degrade through a certain process which releases heat. That's what it is.
And it's great. It's very clear that all other conventional generating technologies, particularly coal and gas, kill many, many, many times more people than nuclear power does. We're afraid of nuclear power, but it's very safe. Fukushima killed 1 person.
Even Chernobyl killed a few hundred.
Whereas coal power stations through air
kill
pollution,
thousands of people every week, every day. In fact, just digging the coal, they kill thousands of people every week globally. And if you take in air pollution, well, I mean, you need a big calculator to get all those numbers in, because they've decimated the global air quality just by burning coal and oil. Nuclear power stations are very safe, very necessary, because, again, sometimes the sun don't shine and the wind don't blow. They're very, very good at dealing with base load. So dealing with the areas that renewables find it very difficult to deal with. What they will do is moderate the amount of batteries we require and the investment in batteries. The biggest issue that bothers most people, like my children and most young people, is the contamination issue, because
the waste.
Yeah, is what do you do with it? And the UK built the world's first nuclear power station at Dounreay about 80 years ago now. And if you take all of the high-intensity nuclear waste that has been developed in the UK, in 80 years of the industry, it would all fit in a medium-sized football stadium. The reason that there's supposedly masses of nuclear waste is because, for instance, when I would visit a nuclear power station, I'd put on a paper coverall so that I didn't bring my outside dirt into a nice clean nuclear power station. I'd walk around the nuclear power station, I'd take it off on the dirty side of the power station and put it in a bin, and that would then go to nuclear waste storage.
Yeah. So what we've got is many myths about nuclear power, myths that it's risky. The waste thing, yes, it fits in a medium-sized football stadium, but it's got to fit in the medium-sized football stadium for the next 100,000 years or more without anyone going near it.
Plutonium's 40,000 years, as far as I can remember.
Some of it goes longer.
And you've got a situation, take something like Bradwell in Essex, was a Generation 1 Magnox power station, been decommissioned, shutting down. What you've actually got is a piece of land which has some residual contamination for the next 40,000 years. Right? So why not build another nuclear power station right on top of it? You've already got the grid connections. The contamination will go from 40,000 years to 40,040 years, which is the life of the power station, and just repeat doing things that work.
Yeah. Listen, I agree with all of that. And had we continued building nuclear power stations as we were in the 1970s and 1980s, we wouldn't have the same scale of carbon problem as we have now.
Exactly.
And we would have got better at it. It
Yes.
wouldn't take 20 years. We would have had learnings and we could be doing them on a constant basis and constantly replenishing.
Yeah.
The problem is we didn't. We stopped making them
Yeah.
for bad reasons,
Yeah.
for really bad reasons, and we sold off the entire industry. In the UK, we had amazing expertise, which was sold off by the Blair government in the early 2000s. And we can't do it anymore. And we're not the Koreans. Yes, they do it quicker and cheaper. And the ones that the Koreans built in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi, I think, were done in 10 years, soup to nuts, completely. And that's 4 big ones in one complex. But we can't. What we do have is cheap solar panels, cheap batteries that are getting better and cheaper every day. And we just need to put those out. It's a better way of doing it.
I still think that we've got a call for nuclear power stations. Why are we trying to build the latest design of nuclear power station, fundamentally untested, only 2 of them operating in the world and one of them breaks down all the time?
This is the French design, the EDF design.
Whereas Sizewell B, for instance, has run for like 40 years without a glitch. Like never had an emergency shutdown in 40 years. Fundamentally understand it. You go bonk, 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 bonk. I'll put 6 of those out there. We know exactly how to build them. We know what the risks are. We know what the software does. Everything. Boom, go.
Because we lost the expertise. That's it. We lost it. We had it. That was a British design. That was Westinghouse,
Yes, it was.
right?
Yeah.
And we don't have it anymore. We're able to lose expertise. There's that great example of, it's a silly example, a little outside this area, but in nuclear weapons,
Yes.
right? There's in a nuclear missile, there's a particular type of foam that goes between the sections, right? And the US military forgot how to do it.
Right.
Yeah, literally everybody who knew how to create that foam
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
And it wasn't written down.
Yeah.
So they had to take some samples of the foam and they had to work out
Reverse
how to do
engineer
it,
it.
to reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
But we're kind of in that situation. We just stopped. We don't have the expertise. It's mad. We're able to forget stuff.
Why did we stop?
Why did we stop? We stopped. Well, it's interesting. You were around at the time. I was not
It
concentrating.
was political influence because people were looking for a bad boy. And to be honest, in retrospect now, as someone who's quite politically active at the time, I would say that the oil and gas industry almost threw the nuclear industry under the bus. There was a dead cat booming thing.
Yeah. They didn't make any money out of it.
Yeah. We're not making a lot of money out of this. We team to be in the same sort of place as them. If they're really successful, our business model gets cannibalized. We can throw them away without worrying about it. We don't need to throw away the gas industry or the oil industry or the coal industry because they're great, but we can throw the nuclear industry under the bus. So they allowed it to become a political sacrifice.
But that's, because I think there's 2 things. I think one is exactly that point. A nuclear power station is just a construction project. You build it and that's it. You don't need much fuel. You need like kilograms a year or something. So it's not like coal and gas where you've got to make money. You've got to fuel every day.
Yeah.
So someone's making money. It's different. That's the first thing. I think the second thing, it was the history, bluntly, of Labour Party politics going back to the
Anti-nuclear.
post-war period, anti-nuclear,
Yeah.
and it was conflating nuclear weapons and nuclear power, and they were connected. And one of the reasons we have
You
designs,
made plutonium for bombs in nuclear power stations.
they were very close in the early years, but it became, and this is part of the problem in Germany, is they said, well, nuclear power and nuclear weapons, it's all the same, the military-industrial complex. We need to get rid of it. And that thread of thinking went all the way through to the Labour government, to that moment in the House of Commons where Tony Blair stood up and to cheers from the House of Commons announced the end of nuclear in the UK, which was appalling.
There would be no reason to shut nuclear down if you didn't demonize it. So the connection between nuclear power and nuclear weapons was made, and even after it had been separated, they still maintained it. You know, this was still while we were making nerve gas in Portland Down, by the way. We're worrying about nuclear power stations. But we've got a situation whereby it's been created as a demon, but it's not. And it's a tragedy. really.
So nuclear power, massive missed opportunity.
Yep.
Real failure of leadership everywhere except, hate to say it, France.
Yes.
They De Gaulle
really
said,
good.
we're going to have
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And it's worked very well. Cheapest power in Europe. I mean,
Yes.
not without some problems, but
And a net exporter of energy.
yeah. I love nuclear, but right now, the risk with nuclear is that people say, all right, no trouble, we're going to build nuclear.
Yeah.
And it takes 20 years. And in the meantime, we're pumping out the carbon, which is when it goes up, is not coming down very easily.
Too
if at
slow
all.
and too expensive, probably now. That would be the only thing I would say against it. But I would.
Hang on. You agreeing with me?
No. I would say there's the right answer, which is nuclear, and the right now answer, which is solar and batteries. Right?
Okay.
Because of but I still think we should have a nuclear program, be investing in regenerating nuclear power on existing sites which are already contaminated, so we deal with the contamination problem, get a standardized reactor solution, which is not necessarily the latest tech, but just the tech we know that works,
Yeah.
and just bang them out.
And I tell you what, if the AMOC collapses and we're 10 degrees colder,
We will need them.
we will need them.